The notification came at 11:47 on a Tuesday night, while Priya Nair was in the middle of reviewing a deposition transcript with a glass of red wine she hadn't actually touched. It was a tag. Someone had tagged her husband's account in a photo. She almost scrolled past it. Priya was used to seeing Leonard's name in other people's posts. He was a senior architect at a well-regarded firm in Chicago, the kind of man people photographed at ribbon cuttings and charity galas, always with that easy smile that had made her fall for him at 27. But something made her stop. The account that tagged him wasn't a colleague. It wasn't a client. It was a woman named Cassandra Vane, with 84,000 followers, a curated feed full of luxury travel, designer flats, and what she described in her bio as living intentionally. The photo was of a hotel room. Specifically, it was of a bed. A king-sized bed with ivory sheets turned down at the corner the way the really expensive places do it. A rose on the pillow, a view of Lake Michigan visible through Florida sailing glass behind her. Cassandra Vane was in the foreground, angled just so, her smile the practiced kind that takes years to perfect. Some places feel like coming home. Leonard had tagged the hotel 2 weeks ago. The same hotel, the same room, from the look of the window. Priya set down her wine glass very carefully on the coffee table. She didn't throw it. She didn't cry. She sat with the photo open on her phone for a long time, and the only sound in the apartment was the low hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of rain beginning against the windows. Then she closed the app and went to bed. She did not sleep, but she went to bed. In the morning, she made coffee the same way she always did. 2 scoops, no sugar, the same blue mug she'd bought at a farmer's market in Evanston the year they got married. She stood at the kitchen counter and watched the coffee drip and thought about what kind of woman she was. Not in a dramatic way, more like a practical inventory. She was 39 years old. She had built a career as a commercial real estate attorney that most people would call impressive, though she had stopped using that word for herself around 35. She had 2 children, Maya, 9, and Owen, 7, who were currently asleep down the hall with the unconscious confidence of children who believed their world was safe. She thought about that a lot in the days that followed. The children. She didn't confront Leonard that morning. She didn't confront him that week. What she did instead was notice things she had been trained by years of happy marriage not to notice. The way he angled his phone away when he set it on the counter, the nights he came home distracted in a particular way that she now understood was not work stress, the cologne that was slightly different from the one she'd bought him last Christmas. She noticed. She said nothing. She started making notes. Her closest friend, a woman named Sylvia who had known Priya since law school and had a frankness that sometimes felt like a personal attack, came over on a Thursday evening 2 weeks after the photo. Priya showed her the screenshot she had saved. "Okay," Sylvia said in a voice that meant she was organizing her thoughts before speaking. "Have you talked to Leonard?" "Not yet." "Why not?" Priya wrapped both hands around her mug. "Because I'm a lawyer," she said, "and I don't ask a question until I know the answer." Sylvia looked at her for a long moment. "What do you know so far?" Priya pulled out a folder she had left on the counter, with the deliberate casualness of someone who had been thinking about that folder for 11 days. Inside it were printed screenshots. The hotel photo, a receipt from a restaurant Leonard had told her was a client dinner, a pattern of location check-ins that didn't match his schedule. There was also a printout of Cassandra Vane's Instagram profile, which Priya had analyzed with the same methodical attention she gave to contract disputes. Cassandra was 31. She worked in brand consulting, which Priya understood to mean she was paid to make things look more appealing than they were. She had been posting photos that, in retrospect and in sequence, told a story. "She's not hiding it," Priya said. "She's almost proud of it. Look at this one." She pointed to a photo Cassandra had posted 6 weeks ago, a coffee cup on a marble counter, morning light, a man's jacket visible in the background, draped over a chair. The caption, "Borrowed his jacket, not giving it back." Leonard had a jacket that color. Priya had been the one to pick it out. Sylvia was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" Priya closed the folder. "I'm still deciding," she said. "But I want it to matter. Whatever I do, I want it to matter." She hired a private investigator, not because she needed more evidence. She was a lawyer. She understood what she already had, but because she needed the kind of documentation that could survive cross-examination. It took the investigator 11 days to confirm what Priya had already concluded. Cassandra Vane and Leonard Nair had been seeing each other for approximately 9 months. They had a preferred hotel on the Magnificent Mile. They had been to 2 restaurants. Priya recognized from joint credit card statements. She now understood differently. The investigator's name was Walt, a compact, unassuming man who communicated almost entirely in typed reports, and who seemed constitutionally incapable of expressing surprise at anything a human being did. He gave her the folder in a coffee shop near her office and left without ceremony. Priya sat with the folder for 10 minutes without opening it. Around her, people ordered lattes and talked about their weekends. She opened it. She read every page. She drove home that evening and made dinner for the children. Pasta with the butter sauce Maya liked, the kind that was supposed to be embarrassingly simple, but that both kids requested by name. Leonard was home by 7, which was itself a data point she was now cataloging. She watched him wash his hands at the kitchen sink, and talk to Maya about a book report, and help Owen find a missing sneaker. And she thought about the 9 months she had been inside a marriage that had a version of itself she hadn't been shown. After the children were in bed, she sat at her desk and opened her laptop. She had been thinking, for several weeks, about what kind of response she wanted to make. Not a response that was about Leonard. Not even, really, a response that was about Cassandra. She wanted something that was about the story being told publicly. Because it was already public. Cassandra Vane had been telling this story on her platform for months to 84,000 people. She had been doing it with enough plausible deniability to feel protected, but with enough specificity to feel powerful. Priya understood something about public stories. You couldn't untell them, but you could add context. She spent 3 evenings doing research. She learned a great deal about digital advertising in Chicago. She learned about sponsored content placement on Instagram, specifically about how platforms allowed advertisers to purchase placement in the feeds of users who met certain demographic and interest profiles. She learned that a well-targeted campaign could be configured to appear in the feed of users who followed specific accounts. Accounts, for instance, like the one belonging to Cassandra Vane. On the 4th evening, she called an advertising contact she had worked with on a commercial property campaign 2 years earlier. His name was Trevor, and he was used to Priya being methodical, but even he paused when she described what she wanted. "The copy," he said. "You want me to read you back what you've written?" "Yes." He read it back. There was a pause on the line. "This is legal," he said. It wasn't a question, exactly. "It's a factual statement in a paid advertising context," Priya said. "I've reviewed the platform's terms of service." Another pause. "Okay," Trevor said. "Okay, I can make this happen. I need it targeted to users who follow her account," Priya said. "And I need it to run for 48 hours starting Friday morning." She chose Friday deliberately. Cassandra Vane, she had noticed, posted consistently on Friday mornings. A ritual. The kind of thing that someone who lived on their feed made into a habit. She would open the app on Friday morning, same as always, and the ad would be there. Would, in fact, have been appearing in the feeds of her followers since dawn. Priya did not sleep especially well on Thursday night. Not from guilt. From something else. The particular alertness that comes before something you have been planning for a long time finally arrives. Friday, 7:14 a.m. The ad appeared in Cassandra Vane's Instagram feed, between a skincare brand-sponsored post and a photo from a food blogger she followed. It was clean and simple, white background, no images, bold black text. It said, "He cheated on his wife here. She knows. Chicago knows." At the bottom, in smaller text, was a business handle, not Priya's personal account. A new one she had created specifically for this purpose, with the handle @thewife ignored. Its profile picture was a simple black circle. Its bio said only, "This is a paid advertisement." By 9 a.m., the ad had been screenshotted and reposted 11 times in Cassandra Vane's comments section. By noon, it was in a Reddit thread titled "Chicago Drama." This is either the most unhinged or most brilliant thing I've seen all year. The thread had 400 upvotes within 4 hours. By 3 p.m., a local lifestyle blog had run a piece with the headline, "Someone in Chicago just took out a targeted ad to expose their cheating husband and targeted it directly at his girlfriend's followers." Cassandra Vane did not post on Friday. She did not post on Saturday either, which, for someone who had been posting daily for 4 years, was itself a statement. Leonard found out at 11 a.m. on Friday. Priya knew this because he called her 4 times in a row, and she let each call go to voicemail with the quiet professionalism of someone managing a particularly demanding client. He came home at noon, earlier than she had seen him in months. She was at the kitchen table, working. Maya was at school. Owen was at school. The house was the particular kind of quiet that comes when children who normally fill it are elsewhere. Leonard stood in the kitchen doorway. He had the look of a man who had spent 2 hours in a car preparing a speech and now couldn't remember any of it. "Priya, sit down, Leonard." He sat down. She had thought about this conversation for weeks. She had rehearsed versions of it in the shower, in the car, in the 30 seconds between waking up and remembering everything. She had been angry in those rehearsals, and sad and cold in the particular way that frightened her because it felt permanent. Sitting across from him now, she felt clear. "I want to be very straightforward with you," she said, "because I think you've had enough of the other kind." Leonard opened his mouth. She held up one hand. "I'm not asking questions," she said. "I already know. What I'm telling you is what happens next. I've spoken to my attorney." She paused. "A different one, not from my firm." He looked at the table. "You're going to stay at the apartment on Wacker tonight. The one you've been paying for, which is in my notes and which my attorney also has in notes. You'll see the kids on the schedule we're going to agree to, starting next week. You will be present and you will be consistent, because that is the one thing I am going to require of you as a condition of anything involving the children being uncomplicated." Leonard's jaw moved. "I'm going to file on Monday," she said. "I'm not going to be dramatic about it, and I'm not going to involve anyone beyond who legally needs to be involved. But I need you to understand that this is not a conversation where you try to explain Cassandra Vane to me. I have read everything. I have seen everything. I hired someone to document everything. So we can either do this with our remaining dignity intact, or we can do it the other way." Leonard looked up. His eyes were red in a way she had never seen. "Priya, I'm sorry. I know you are," she said. And she meant it, in the way that you mean things when you have already arrived on the other side of them. "But I need you to understand that sorry is not the same thing as something changing. I needed something to change 9 months ago. What I'm doing now is adjusting to the world as it actually is." He left at 1:30 p.m. She watched his car pull out of the driveway from the front window, and then she went back to her desk and finished the brief she had been working on. The story moved fast after that, the way things do when they hit the specific frequency of the internet that makes them travel. A journalist from a Chicago publication reached out through her new Instagram handle on Saturday afternoon. Then another, from a national outlet that covered culture and what they called the intersection of technology and private life. A creator with 2 million followers shared the Reddit thread with the caption, "This is either a social experiment or a war crime, and I cannot stop thinking about it." The comments underneath used words like unhinged and iconic, and "this is what it means to have a law degree and no more fucks to give." Priya declined to comment to the press. She did not confirm or deny that she was behind the ad. She let the story live in the space where people make it mean what they need it to mean, which is usually where the most interesting things happen. What she did do was call Maya's school counselor and Owen's teacher and have the conversations she needed to have to make sure the children would be protected from whatever version of this story might reach them. She arranged dinner with her mother-in-law, Leonard's mother, a woman named Beatrice, who had known something was wrong for months, and who held Priya's hand across a restaurant table and said, "You are handling this better than anyone I have ever known." She set up the parenting schedule and sent it to Leonard's attorney in a document that was so meticulously structured that even her own lawyer called to compliment the formatting. She was not handling it better than anyone. She was handling it the only way she knew how, by refusing to become a smaller version of herself in response to someone else's choices. 3 weeks after the ad ran, a woman she had never met messaged the At the Life, You'd Ignored account. Her name, she said, was Rhonda, and she was in Atlanta, and she had been in a similar situation for 2 years and hadn't known what to do. "How did you decide?" Rhonda wrote, "How did you know what the right thing was?" Priya sat with the message for a long time. She typed back, "I didn't know it was right. I knew it was honest. I think sometimes that's enough to start with. She didn't post publicly again. She archived the account 3 days later. Cassandra Vane posted again on the following Wednesday. It was a photo of a coffee cup, no explanation, no reference to what had happened. The comments were not kind. She turned them off within the hour. She quietly unfollowed Leonard's account. Leonard's firm called him in for a conversation about a client who had seen the Reddit thread and had concerns. It was, by his account, deeply unpleasant. Priya heard about it from Sylvia, who heard about it from someone at the firm, and she felt, not satisfaction exactly, but the particular neutrality of watching a system of consequences operate the way it's supposed to. The divorce was filed on Monday, as she had said it would be. It was not dramatic. It was thorough, and it was fair, and it was handled by people who were paid to be precise about painful things. The children knew in the way that children know things before they're told. The shifted weight of the house, the absence of a jacket in the front closet, the dinners that were quieter. Priya and Leonard sat with them on a sunny afternoon. In the living room that still had the marks on the door frame where she'd measured their heights every birthday, and told them the truth in the size and shape it was right for a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old to hold. Maya asked if they were going to move. No, Priya said. This was still their home. Owen asked if Dad was still Dad. Always, Leonard said, and his voice broke in a way that made Priya look out the window for a moment. She watched her children process this in real time. The way they each went quiet in their own particular way. Maya curling her feet under her on the cushion. Owen reaching over to hold Priya's hand without saying anything. She held his hand back. She held it for a long time. That was the part she had been carrying since the beginning. Not the betrayal, not the public story, not even the careful machinery of the legal process. It was this, sitting in a living room on a Sunday afternoon explaining to two people who didn't ask for any of this that the world had shifted and that they would be okay anyway. She believed that. She wanted them to believe it too. Spring came to Chicago the way it always does, reluctantly at first, and then all at once. The lake went from gray to the particular green-blue that tourists photographed, but that Priya had always thought was impossible to capture. She started running again, something she had stopped doing 3 years into the marriage, when the schedule had become something other than her own. She ran along the lakefront path in the early mornings, before the children were up, before the city had fully committed to the day. She ran past the park where Maya had learned to ride a bike, and past the cafe where Leonard had proposed, and past none of it meant the same thing anymore, but none of it needed to. Things didn't need to mean nothing just because they no longer meant what they used to. Sylvia met her for coffee on a Thursday in April. "You look different," Sylvia said in the forensic way she had. "I'm sleeping again," Priya said. "Is that all?" Priya thought about it. "I think I stopped waiting for something," she said. "For a long time I was waiting for things to be right again, to go back. And somewhere in all of this I just stopped waiting for that and started doing something else instead." "What are you doing instead?" She looked out the window at the street. A woman walking 2 dogs, a man unlocking a bicycle, the ordinary continuous motion of a city going about its business. "Being here," she said. "Being exactly where I am." She paid for the coffee, said goodbye to Sylvia, and walked back to her office in the morning air that was just warm enough to not need a jacket. She had a deposition at 10 and a call with a client at noon, and lunch with Maya's school in the afternoon, for a thing she'd marked on her calendar 3 months ago, when the world had been a different shape. She walked into her building, nodded to the doorman, and took the elevator up. The woman she was becoming was not the woman she had been, but she had decided, somewhere between the first screenshot and the last signed document, that this was not a loss. It was a direction.